Hello again, everyone. This is the story pitch for an Arkham Origins sequel / Arkham Asylum prequel I wanted to write. I've already written a thing about Injustice 3 hypotheticals, and I've already written a story pitch for a Bane movie, so why not just story pitch for an Arkham game? Complete the trilogy of weird Batman YouTubers. You gotta make a pitch for a movie. You gotta figure out some way to shove Batman everywhere else, and then you gotta write an Arkham game. So, Batman will start the game alone on a tower. Across the city skyline, there's a large blimp. Batman wants to investigate, but 10 police choppers, some from Metropolis, some from Bloodhaven, and of course some from Gotham, arrive. Alfred pleads Batman to ignore it. However, Batman goes anyway, 'cause he's Batman. Apparently, it was a transport blimp for a bunch of chemicals, and it had been stolen. Batman does some combat and Predator sections on board Arkham Staples, you know how it is, and comes face to face with the first boss of the game. Deadshot's been hired to help whoever was stealing this. Batman doesn't know yet, the player's not supposed to know yet. And Batman, I feel like this Deadshot fight would happen almost like the Arkham Knight Red Hood fight, where it's a stealth section, but also a boss fight at the same time. Weird stuff. Anyway, so Batman's gonna ask Lawton for answers, but Deadshot's gonna be like, nope, sorry, can't help you. And Batman's gonna keep on going through the ship and finds in the control room a kidnapped scientist and Bane. Bane reveals that he's the one who masterminded this whole thing. He stole the ship and was planning to make his own version of Venom with more power. Batman's gonna fight Bane, as like a big boss fight thing. And I feel like this fight would play more like Arkham Asylum Bane, which I know a lot of people don't really like Arkham Asylum Bane because he's just big dumb brute, but he's Bane. So Batman will save the scientist who's just screaming over here. He's in such terror. So Batman's gonna try to turn Bane in, but then across town fireworks go off. Batman investigates, scanning around detective vision, and sees a giant green question mark pattern and lights in the sky. Someone has positioned thousands of drones across the Gotham skyline just to form this question mark, and Batman thinks that can only be one person, who he met in Arkham Origins as Enigma, but later, as we know from the later games, is going to turn into the Riddler. And this voice, there's a voice that's going to play with these drones, and the voice saying, "With the brawn down, bat beating, who will be doing fine eating?" And Batman would go to multiple crime scenes, investigate with detective vision, and find none of them. Riddler's not connected to any of them. However, Batman thinks maybe he should check the obvious and go to the Iceberg Lounge. He already knows from the last game that Penguin is, an issue when it comes to crime, so maybe Penguin's stashing him. And when Batman gets there, he sees Riddler and Penguin just working together. Riddler warns Batman that the time has come. Brains and brawn are struggling to constrict Gotham to their side. However, Batman is in the middle. He is the one person who is both strong and smart. So Batman's attacked by some rudimentary robots with, freeze tech. Mostly just because I want Mr. Freeze to be here for a bit. Batman beats the robots and tries to go follow Riddler, but runs into the same scientist from the airship. The scientist says he has, notes on the chemicals. However, the ship crashed, so he can't get his notes. And Batman wants those notes because he wants to figure out what the chemicals could be used for, in addition to what Bane was trying to use them for. So, Bane arrives at where the airship crashed, and it's in a small island made of ice. He meets Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze asks Batman to deal with Killer Croc, who's attacking his island. And here we get to see a little bit of how Killer Croc changed, because in Arkham Asylum, in Arkham Origins, he was just this big guy who wanted to bite Batman's head off. Whereas Arkham Asylum, he was this really big, monstrous guy. And so we can see a little bit of the in-between there, right? You know, from just guy on a roof to the underwater monster. We got a little bit of underwater now. So this next section would be like a combination of, again, Croc's segment in Arkham Asylum with the whole running around and everything, and the Iceberg Lounge in Arkham City with Tiny. So you'd have to walk over the ice to grab the various research notes. But also, you can't make too much noise or run across, or else Croc appears. But what is different than both of those is that the ice is just one big sheet. There's no bat claw and platforms, and there's no random walls and whatnot. You don't really have to follow a set path, so it's just a big open sheet. And anywhere Croc can find you. However, Batman ends up beating Croc and just leaving. Okay, so this next section of the game would be really hard to pull off from a technical standpoint. However, due to the modern capabilities of PCs and consoles, it should be possible hypothetically. So, this would be do a one-to-one remake of the map of Arkham Asylum, but all the buildings are closed, being rebuilt/redone. You can't go inside any of them, so it's basically just walking around the grounds of Arkham Asylum. And we find, yet again, this scientist that Batman has rescued, because Batman's trying to, give him the research notes to figure out what's going on. And they talk, and the scientist reveals his name is Jonathan Crane. And he leads Batman to his lab to try to figure out, what these chemicals are for. But Batman has a little bit of suspicion, activates detective mode, sees a secret panel, goes in there, and finds documents claiming that he was planning to betray Riddler to Bane. Like giving the chemicals to Bane. And right then, 2 helicopters soar across the sky and land on Arkham Island. Bane steps out of one, Riddler steps out of the other. And Batman has to fight them both, as well as Crane, who by the end of the fight escapes. Next segment would be Batman tracing chemicals to find an amusement park. And since this is an Arkham game, we all know Joker's gotta show up, so here's your obligatory Joker. So Joker's there, and Batman tries to fight him. You learn that apparently Joker was trying to take it over, and in the process, he killed a bunch of people, including 2 trapeze artists, the Flying Graysons. Batman, however, gets hit on the back of the head with a random mallet and falls unconscious. Batman gets tied up, and the player shifts to Dick Grayson. Grayson does a stealth segment with gadgets that Joker got off Batman's unconscious body and just left strewn across the ground. After that, Grayson rescues Batman, and they do a double-team takedown on Joker. Now, Batman just leaves Grayson there with the police and continues along the trail, because he doesn't believe Grayson's ready. But of course, as we all know, he will eventually be ready to become Robin and then Nightwing. So, Batman continues along Scarecrow's trail and finds a haunted house. And this would make sense, haunted house, Scarecrow, makes sense. So, he finds a guard in place, though. The guard has just like 8 slashes on his head. I mean, not nearly as much as they had in Asylum, but this is Victor Zsasz here. Batman fights him and goes inside. Scarecrow then sprays Batman with fear toxin as soon as he gets in. And much like Arkham Knight, Scarecrow's fear toxin is like the final section of the game, so this is not really like all real. It's got a little bit of symbolism and madness. So, Batman wakes up in the Monarch Theater. You could probably just reuse the design from Arkham City, I'm gonna be honest, yeah. And there, Batman sees 2 young boys crying. Batman walks up to one of them. It doesn't really matter. The player gets to choose, just, whichever one. And either young Bruce Wayne or young Dick Grayson attacks, whichever one you picked. And it's basically going to end up being the same fight anyway, just different models. So, nothing changes there. But the final way to win is to explosive gel the floor and have the attacker fall. But then, from the floor, Killer Croc emerges, ready to fight. This, similar to the beginning, would function a lot like Bane's fight from Arkham Asylum. And then, Batman, his mind, gets flashed back into the asylum. But this time would be probably just a remake of one room of the original asylum. Probably the room with all the lunatics in the, I believe that was the penitentiary? Right after the Green Mile, where all the people are in the cells, and it's a whole horror scene, basically. But all the cells are filled with himself, as in Batman. Like, he sees all around him just a lot of Batman. And I think they could reuse the model of the Nightmare Batman that Joker saw in Arkham Origins, the rabbit version of Batman from Mad Hatter's mission in Arkham City, and also the Nightmare Batman from the end of Arkham Knight. Because this game is basically just fan service to the whole Arkham series, the game. But then Riddler and Bane enter the room, and Batman at first assumes these are just illusions, but they're actually the real people, as Detective Mode confirms. They're attempting to kill each other and you, but also their own minions, because the fear toxin's warping their minds. Like, Riddler doesn't know who's who, Bane doesn't know who's who, it's the whole thing. So you have to beat both of them together, kind of like the boss fight earlier at the asylum. But then a cutscene plays showing Detective Jim Gordon, Harvey Bullock, showing up with the District Attorney Harvey Dent. The player shifts into controlling Gordon for the first time in the series, and the trio confronts Scarecrow. I envision this part to play somewhat like Arkham Origins Online, where you get to play as the goons, and there's Batman and Robin chasing you. I feel like that could work. So you're trying to, sneak around and avoid the Batman, but also try to get Scarecrow. Then, once Gordon shoots Scarecrow non-lethally, like in the knee or something, Batman is shown to now be just going absolutely crazy because he hasn't worked up resistance to the fear toxin yet. This is his first time really dealing with it, so he's not where he is in Asylum at all. So Bane and Riddler get up, they fall victim to the toxin, but Batman eventually, through a QTE, QuickTime event, beats the toxin, showing he is the ultimate culmination of brains and brawn. And that would be the main story segment of this video. I'll also explain the side missions, because I believe that those would be crucial to any Arkham game post-Arkham City. So for the first one, we'd have an Arkham staple. Go to this place and destroy a thing, right? Because in Arkham City, we had the Titan containers for Fragile Alliance. In Origins, we had Penguin's weapons. And in Knight, we had the militia bombs and Penguin's weapon caches. In Arkham Destruction, the name of this game, we'll have crates of Scarecrow fear toxin. These will only be found around Gotham after the Arkham Island section. Then, Clayface has a mission. A series of murders have been done around Gotham, and similarly to Arkham Knight, with Professor Pig, Batman must scan the bodies to figure out their identities, but eventually finds that every victim is connected to a remake of The Terror. Batman goes to a film festival as Bruce Wayne, finds a man in a purple trench coat. Bruce leaves and sneaks back in and deals with Clayface's thugs and has to fight Clayface. At this time, he doesn't have full control over his power, so his fight would be much different than Arkham City. It'd be a little like Professor Pig, honestly, where, the goons do most of it, but he's got, some attacks from the center of the stage. I feel like that would work. Also, who he's specifically hunting down here has to be Baby Doll from Batman the Animated Series. It just has to be. That's what we're doing. It has to be. The next villain to be featured would be the ventriloquist. He hasn't really been in these games at all, so we gotta add him. So he only has one mission, not a multi-part mission like the other two thus far. He's holding up both Salvatore Maroni and Carmine Falcone at gunpoint, since they're halting his rise through the criminal empire. Batman stops him by sneaking under him and taking him down, like Deadshot in Arkham City, which a lot of people didn't like. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know much about the ventriloquist. I just know people want him in the Arkham games. I want him in the Arkham games. This is the best way I could think of. So then, Mad Hatter has a mission. So Jervis Tetch is trying to get a collection of chemicals for the brains. If Batman has beaten the story, he doesn't know that Riddler has been beaten, and he doesn't know that Bane's been beaten either. He just doesn't know this. So Mad Hatter used a gadget similar to that of the voice synthesizer from Arkham Knight to mimic Jim Gordon to send Batman to get a few chemicals. The voice thing is mostly a reference again to Arkham City, but also a plot device. These chemicals eventually mix, making Batman see a weird, like, Wonderland thing, but more creepy than normal, because Batman still has, like, residual fear toxin in his blood. And Batman does a boss fight not only with Mad Hatter, but this time joined by White Rabbit. Now, Prometheus gets a side mission too. He's been hinted at in almost every game in this franchise, and I want him in this franchise. So, he's just a guy trying to figure out who Batman is. And when you actually get to fight him, he just basically has a fight similar to Arkham Origins. I don't really know how you'd build up to the fight, but I'm just saying. That's a simple plot for you. Now, this one's a little hard to imagine, but there, much like in Arkham Knight, are a few connected side missions. And like with the cameras in Arkham City, and also the penguins and the balloons and the teeth in Arkham Asylum, all that, I want Batman to have to traverse Gotham and hit masks with batarangs. Just go around, hit a bunch of masks. The second one I want is to beat up a few people who are wearing modified League of Assassins armor, who are just trying to kill random civilians. And the third one only becomes unlocked when the other two happen. So in this one, you have to scan a book found delivered to Wayne Manor, where you see the Court of Owls rhyme, which that hints to what we're doing right now. So Batman does a detective scene where he tracks a flying object like wings and find Ra's al Ghul. They fight similar to Arkham City, but Ra's is definitely weaker at this point. At the end, Ra's tells Bruce that the court is trying to dethrone his league, and Batman is forced to work with Ra's to fight some Talons. Cutscene plays afterwards, showing Ra's get killed again, and a League assassin dragging him off to the Lazarus Pit. Batman has to fight the last Talon alone. However, this Talon would have a costume that isn't just a League of Assassins uniform edited, it's Owlman's costume. But in this mission, he's not from Earth 3. He's just the head Talon for the court. Now, Batman beats Owlman, and the mission is over. Finally, and this is finally, Clock King gets a mission. I know he's normally like a Green Arrow villain, but I think this would be fun, and here's why. Clock King would act somewhat like Riddler, but much easier to complete than, especially City. And since Riddler's one of the main antagonists, I see no reason to do Riddler trophies. Like, that'd be absurd. You know, Riddler's a main threat, but also has all these trophies all over the place. No. So, talk trials. Clock King set up some combat, some predator, and some acrobatics challenges across Gotham. Batman does them all in a specific amount of time, and after beating them all, you fight Clock King. And I think his boss fight would, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm thinking probably just, him and some goons, and you just fight him. But at the end of the line, he would have a funny remark to help tie it to the rest of the DC universe by saying, well, at least I didn't get shot this time, to reference Green Arrow. And that is all for Batman Arkham Destruction. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. Thanks, bye!